Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about Sony FX30. So let's dive right into it. Now, what exactly Sony is doing here is basically they are creating an answer to the whole barrage of full grade APS-C cameras. Basically, APS-C camera before this was like kind of a slowly dying off niche, because yes, the cinema cameras, they are all slowly moving away from super 35 to full 35, and those who are at 35 like Alexa and all that, they are moving to 65 mm. So reality is like people have realized like bigger sensors is feasible to do now. Silicon technology is good enough, and the majority of the cost of the camera does not come from sensor, it comes from the processor. So slowly but surely everything is moving to full frame. But here's the APS-C is always a low cost option, but here's the low cost options are very awesome if company can just go YOLO on it. If company does not hold themselves back, it's like, you know what if we give the best we can do financially speaking, not just like product oh, we have to make sure this product is garbage, so this product has to be even bigger garbage. It's like, no, how about you do as much as you can do with the limitation of, like, let's say, cropped sensors. So that was the first time I saw Canon going all out with Canon R7. Like, this puppy has processor of like high end, meaning it's really high end for like a crop sensor. Like, old Canon would not have done that, but they did that, and it was like, whoa. For the amount of money, the performance this puppy gives is damn awesome. It's like so goddamn awesome. Like, genuinely speaking, good luck trying to beat this with any A60,000 series cameras. We say A6600, A6400 barely will able to hold up. Again, it won't be garbage, but like, you will feel it. It's like, bro, this is next level stuff. And Fuji, again, Fuji does not have to deal with product stack limitation, where it's like, oh, if I make it more expensive, it will directly affect my XFX GFX series. It won't. Again, GFX is medium format. So they are like, they can go all out. That's also very good. Blackmagic is very good. It's like, you know what, we're gonna give a proper cinema level function with no holds barred. So this flood of the APS-C series created a scenario where Sony's 6000 series was not looking good. It was like, bro, you have not updated them in like around 2 to 3 years, and they're starting to show their age. And again, they were always making as crappy as possible, so it does not look bad compared to A7C. So that was the Sony's wake-up call. Is like, bro, too many people are jumping to APS-C because of the low cost, and once they go into the system, let's say once you buy Canon system, you're gonna buy Canon battery, you're gonna buy Canon system, for example, CFast Express Type B card. If you buy that, you're not gonna switch to Sony simply because Sony has stupid card. I'll explain that further, but that's the whole point. Once people buy into a system, they get locked into it. So it's a very important from a business point of view to Sony to create something that is like what we call good starting point for loyalty reasons. Because A6400 when it came out was good. A6600 really practical because again it supports the same battery that they will use in full frame, so it was super easy to jump from that. But again, it cost effective was not that good, and it was like okay when it came out. It was like, it was never felt like Sony did their best. So this is the answer. Basically, they took FX3, Control C, Control V did, and they just yeet the sensor out of there, put a new sensor there. That's it, done. And I'm reasonably sure if somebody did a teardown, they will find exact same motherboard. So it's a really good starter camera. Basically, this camera is supposed to hook you into Sony ecosystem, and the moment you buy Sony glass, you're stuck there. You're not gonna switch. So that's why cost is very important for them, and making a good starter camera. Like Canon's R7 is genuinely good. Like, I don't like Canon that much. Specifically, they're like, I want to cripple my equipments mentality, but this was like, damn, like good. So Sony had to do something that can truly go against this. And even for Fuji point of view, it's like Fuji like, hey, not as expensive as full frame, but like we have really good functions. So it's like Sony had to do something. This is the answer. Now FX3, to give you a context of that, is $4,000. This puppy is $1,800, so less than half. In India, it should be around 2 lakhs or something less than that. It has not launched in India yet by the time I'm making the video, but you should get that idea. And it does have crop. That's the biggest flaw of this if you are coming from full frame. And even if you are expecting APS-C size, it will give you APS-C size most of the time. Like as long as you are above 60 fps. 60 fps full basically full APS-C. 30, 24, no problem. The moment you start to do advanced fancy things like image stabilization, crop in, again it does have physical IBIS, but it also does digital IS. So both of them, that will give a crop. If you do 120 fps, it's gonna do even bigger crop. If you do 240 fps in full HD, it's gonna do idiotically large crop. So crop is one of those things that's like really bad. You have to be very mindful, and you have to have very uber hyper wide lenses in order to use that functions. Just be aware of that. And it does have cooling for hot use. Basically, even a camera that does not overheat in USA, it will overheat instantaneously in India, because we have hot temperatures. Like again, Western counterparts, they know cold, like they know how cold things get. We Indian, we know how hot things get, as in like 50-degree air temperature is like normal for me. It's like, yeah, go out, it's 51 degrees Celsius. Not even joking. I'm not even joking. So you have to understand, in some scenarios you have to have a fan. So that is a very critical aspect. And especially if you are doing some long shooting, or if you are doing like balls to the walls video work, you want a camera that cannot overheat. Having a cooling fan guarantees that. So that's a very desirable function. So this is Sony's answer to this whole barrage of new cameras. So what are the features? Cooling fan is the biggest thing that gives you high endurance, meaning as long as you can feed it power using power delivery, proper power delivery, this puppy should keep working as long as you have memory to store it. So that's awesome. It can do 4K, 422, 10-bit. Again, it used to be a big deal, but now almost every camera can do that. Damn, I'm getting old. I was like full HD. Wow, full HD 60 FPS. Damn, I did not even knew about like 422 back in that. Like that time was like 420. Enjoy. 422 10-bit. Awesome. 24 to 60 FPS without any issue. Don't have to worry about it. And it has full size HDMI. This I genuinely hate a Canon. It's like, dude, full size HDMI ports are cheaper because they are mass produced on exponentially more things like AV receiver. Each AV receiver could easily have 10 HDMI ports. Each soundbar could easily have 3 to 4 ports. Each TV could easily have 4 to 8 ports. So they are manufactured exponentially more. It's cheaper. But Canon is like, what if we F the customer? What if we just F the customer? Like my camera has mini HDMI. Bad, but not too bad. In the modern Canon cameras, they have micro HDMI. It's like, dude, do you actually want to piss people off? So full size HDMI, good. Thankfully, Fuji also learned it, and some full frame Canons do have full HDMI. So that is there. But this puppy, the interesting part, it has 16-bit raw output. Now be mindful, HDMI output and raw output, they are not the same, because sensors are amazing. All sensors are, and that's the main difference between sensors that are used in cinema, sensor used for commercial system. Basically, basic stuff. Consumer equipment take the 16-bit analog to digital converter, and they squish the data. They take the data, squish it to 8-bit to give it to you. Or 10-bit. 10-bit is really good because it does have enough gradation. But here's the deal, the 16 had lot of data. Now that lot of data, if you know what you're doing with it, specifically like VFX was proper color processing, and you really want to stretch it out to like, let's say 200-inch screen, in those sort of scenarios, it does make a very big difference. But again, the pipeline is very complex to do. That's the whole cost of cinema cameras. Again, the sensor is not special. It's the fact that they can store that 16-bit output rather than just throwing data. So this gives you that output. Now be mindful, what the hell you're gonna do with that output? Sony does support certain models of Ninja that you can capture that 16-bit. Now be mindful, 16-bit RAW is not the specification of HDMI. That's why you need collaboration between manufacturers that are using HDMI for raw output and the people who are receiving the raw output. You should, in principle, have the ability to send the HDMI output to some Blackmagic PCI cards that are for HDMI capture. Should work, but I can't guarantee it. Sony only validated for that. Now, if you have that 16-bit out, in some scenarios, you can flat out use this camera for cinema work. Flat out. And again, be mindful, many times you may say, oh, cinema is shot in this. Not all the scenes. Many times even Canon 5D was used, like in Iron Man 2, Canon 5D was used in F1 scenes. They need a small camera. Even in Top Gun, they used like certain Blackmagics because it was small enough. That's the only thing you are allowed to put inside a fighter jet. So there are scenarios where if you have something small and it can really give you top quality, people like, shut up and take my money. So 16-bit raw output, if you know what you're doing with it, if you can get the deal with the idiotically large file sizes, if you can deal with the clutter that it will create, you can get output from that. And at that point in time, this puppy can flat out go to theater without any issue. So that may be a desirable factor, may not be a desirable factor, but that's up to you. It has a flip out screen. Again, I'm very happy that this is finally becoming a normal thing that everybody does that. Thank you. It does have XLR add-on. Again, it is one of those things, if you need it, you're like, shut up and take my money. If you don't, I'm gonna save my money. Be mindful, this is the add-on, meaning you have to choose when you are making the purchase to get it. It will increase your cost from $1,800 to around $2,000, but at least it's available. It does have phantom power and directly power from the camera battery, so you do not have to deal with extra batteries. That's also awesome. And it has 26 megapixel. That is the major resolution upgrade from 12 megapixel. So it does oversampling, meaning it will take 6K video output, squish it down to 4K, then give you the footage. It has dual base ISO 800 and 2500. So these are the core features of it. And just to make sure that it is bit different from FX3, given the fact that it is exactly same chassis, they have colored the screw holes into different color. Now for many people, that screw holes are like, shut up and take my money. Nobody wants to deal with cages. And given the fact that you can almost stand it vertical, it does have a hole on the other side also, so you can stand it vertical if you need to do that. It may limit some of access to some of the ports, but if you need it, you can do it. So if you are doing TikTok, you can do it. So that are the features of this puppy. So what was the performance? In simplest term, FX3, basically A7S3, it's sharper than that, because again, it's taking 6K, downsampling it to 4K, then giving you the output. So it is noticeably sharper. Now be mindful, noticeably meaning you stretch it out to a big TV and then you have side by side, then you can tell. Like again, if you are going back and forth, then you can tell it's a bit sharper, but do not expect like whoa sharpness and meh sharpness. It's like, it's not that much. And not to mention, video work, people actually don't want that kind of sharpness. Like it was a very new news for me that there are lenses that are so sharp that people have to put glitter glass on top of it in order to make sure that, hey, it does not hurt our eyes. And not to mention, if you really do not want to see every single skin crack in a 200-inch screen, you do not want that. Like many times I have seen some people who try to make it as sharp as possible. Like that's the first in amateur look that people try, like make it as sharp as possible, and then like, dude, it looks ugly. So it does not, it does have sharpness. Now again, that may be desirable, may not be, but again, you can always tone it down. You can't add it, so you can tone it down. So FX3 does give you less sharpness, but it is far less noisy. Again, that's the aspect of 12 megapixel versus 26 megapixel. It is far noisier. Now does that mean it's unusable? Hell no. What does noise here means? Well, here's the video work. People generally try to get the raw noise from the sensor. Now that's garbage. Let's be very clear. Even if you saw red cameras or you saw RE camera, you'll be like, dude, this is noisy. And that's the reality of it. Because we do so much computational hululu to it, it becomes useful. Like if you ever saw raw data that is coming out of the sensor of like let's say any Pixel phone or iPhone, you'll be like, dude, this is garbage. That's the whole point of computational photography. You just crunch the puppy out of it. It's like, and then you make a good image. So in video work, that's not desirable. In video work, dude, give me the raw. Then I'm gonna think thoughtfully. Like again, if you want like tense scene, if you want a dramatic scene, you may want a noise. So in those sort of scenarios, that's why it becomes a creative choice. You do want good noise grain profile, so it does not look digital, then you can use it. So FX30 will not have as amazing performance as X3. So it does have 11 steps of clean dynamic range. Clean dynamic range meaning you can do it. Meaning 11, I'm old enough where I remember that number used to be 8. So 11 is more than good enough in most often of scenario. And they are claiming 13, but be mindful at 13, the clarity, the noise floor is not good enough. 11 is like, dude, shut up and take my money. 12 is like you have to put some love, extra love into it. 11 is straight out of the camera, go YOLO on it. Rolling shutter is better than FX3, but not too much better. And not to mention the cameras that are like, I'm comparing other two, Canon and Fuji, they will be a bit better. Do not expect like whoa better, it's just like bit better. Now, one of the most desirable feature here, that is a new addition, is like user LUT for preview. Now, what does that mean? Think of this way. When you take that 16-bit output and you want to squish it down to 6-bit, you apply a LUT to it. Now, back in the old days, companies used to decide the LUT for you and you are stuck with that. Now people are like, hey, what if I feed in the LUT? LUT is just an algorithm that allows you to do that. So if you feed in the LUT, you can get what you want. But here's the problem. If you directly try to capture raw file as untempered as possible, as flat as possible, so it has enough data that you can temper the algorithms forward, it looks garbage. Like it will be very confusing for you because it looks so flat. It's like, is it capturing? Is it overexposing? Is it? You will have very hard time to do that because again, we are using our eyes. So what companies do, again, it's a very common function in cinema cameras. They will allow you to apply a preview LUT, quote unquote. And what Sony is doing exactly same, preview LUT. And again, that LUT would be acted as a metadata into your video file. So meaning if you put it into, let's say, DaVinci Resolve, you have that metadata there. And again, you can tweak it. So if your LUT, you experimented with it, you have like, this is the LUT that I want, this is the look I want. You bake it, not bake it as in like hard bake it, as just it's there. You can preview it, arrange it, and then be like, final work would be minor tweaking, done. So that's a very desirable for people who know how to use it. They're like, shut up and take my money. It does have rework quick speed menu. So this is like how Venice cameras have, like Sony's Pro lineup, like Pro lineup. So that's the whole point. Basically, everything is as quickly achievable as possible. Everything, as in like bit rate, codec setting, color base, ISO functions, shutter speed, frame rate per second, white balance, everything as quickly as possible. And you can have 2 of those settings. Minor change, but again, for the people who need to tamper with those things a lot, they're like, shut up and take my money. So that performance is good. So should you buy it or not? Well, reality is the biggest hurdle with this is that Sony's own ego. Sony is using C Fast Express Type A. Now I'm old enough and I remember Sony Erection, and Sony Erection was like destroyed by like Sony's own stupidity, where they're like, we will not use SD card, secure digital card, the normal micro SD card. We will use Magic Gate card. Yeah, they were actually stupid enough to call it Magic Gate. I'm not even joking. I have Magic Gates in my house. So they were doing that. Same thing is here. It's like entire camera industry is like, bro, SD card is not good enough. Again, the bus design, the actual data bit bus design is not good enough for that. So everybody was like, came together. It's like, hey, we should go into PCI Express. How our SATA went to PCI, we should do the same. Awesome, everybody agreed. Now there was 2 competing standards. Basically, CFast cards were there, and then you had XQD from Sony. Both of them got together, they got married. They created a child known as CFast Express Type B, this puppy. It was basically made with the help of Sony, but stamp of some compact flash, because if you do have Sony stamp, no other company will use it. It had to be a third party. It had to be a, like, media manufacturers. So compact flash took that role. Sony provided the physical design. That's why it looks exactly same as XQD. So Sony could have used that, but Sony's like, this is a 2-lane system. Be mindful, this is a 2-lane architecture. Type A is 1-lane architecture. Type C is 4-lane architecture. Now, if you're like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar to PCI yet? That's the whole point. Like, this is PCI 2, this is PCI 4, and another would be PCI 8. Like, how you have 1x, 2x, 4x, 4x, 8x, 16x. Same thing happens here. But this format is supported by many companies, be it Nikon, be it Canon, be it basically Panasonic, be it Fuji, be it other cinema companies. Everybody is supporting that benefit. You can buy around, pre-order wise, 1 terabyte at $400. Let's just put it that way. 1 terabyte, $400. Not too bad. And given the speed, this puppy can easily write sustainably at 1 Gbps. And read sustainably at 1.5 Gbps, meaning to utilize this, you need a card reader that can, like, do 20 USB 3 20 Gbps in order to read data out of it at max speed. So that's awesome. That's like, you can record like, full high quality video and dump that into your computer for editing very quickly. Awesome. Here's the Type A. That is half. Again, the lane is half, so speed is like, instead of let's say 1400, it's 700. Again, more than good enough compared to SD card that's like leagues ahead, 10x ahead. So speed is more than. Here's the deal: 640 GB. It has not been announced yet in India. It's $1,250. It's like, god damn it, the per gigabyte cost of this puppy is idiotically stupid. Like, this is the very frustrating part, especially if you really want to, like, I'm gonna do long form recordings. At this point in time in India, you can only buy 80 GB and 160 GB. And yes, they have this weird gigabytes. This is also 640 gigabytes. This is really painful. That's why I wanted to show you this part. Like, it's painful for consumer. You have to deal with it. And it does not have internal raw recording. It could be desirable given the fact that there are other companies, for example, Blackmagic and Fuji, that have figured that out. So that does hurt that, oh, you have to buy an external device. But raw output is there. That's up to you. And it does have Sony autofocus. For many people, it's like, shut up and take my money. Sony autofocus is genuinely that good. It's just shut up and take my money. People are like, open a Sony. No. Just no. Flat out no. There is a reason for that. Fuji, good, but not that good. Like, good stills, awesome. Video, you can tell, like, flat out you can tell. It's like, I can tell. So that's the whole point. Now, USB-C webcam function, I'm really happy that this company is doing that. You may be like, who's gonna use this camera as a webcam? Again, streamers are like, they're already doing it. And for corporate world, there are companies that spend more than that in normal webcams. So trust me, they're like, shut up and take my money. Corporate world, not for companies, corporate. Granddaddy layer. And it does have crops that could be limiting for many people, whereas, like, I want to use 120 FPS for music videos, and they're like, crop becomes too sharp, like too much. Gen lock is still missing, meaning you cannot use this puppy into large systems, meaning if you have multiple cameras, multiple mic setups, you cannot utilize gen locks. Gen lock is needed if you really want to do long recording, or you want to sync record, meaning for VR work, 360 work. Basically, if you want your shutter to trigger exactly, you need gen lock. Low grade equipments require time sync, what we call time code. This does support timecode, but you have to buy external adapter. That's why this device does not say it supports timecode. You have to buy a timecode to adapter. It does support it. Like, you have to use an adapter. So basically, if you want to use this puppy for Netflix, you have to use that adapter in order to inject timecode. Again, painful compared to the Blackmagic options where they're like, dude, Gen code also, Gen lock also is there. So it doesn't need gimbal for better IS performance, but this is one of the things that you have to understand. Always figure out what you can add to a camera, what you cannot add to a camera. For example, if you're like, Panasonic is so awesome, like it has raw recording, it has type B recording, everything is awesome. Here still it does not have good autofocus. Again, can you live with that? Awesome, take it and go, enjoy. But if you need autofocus, you're like, can you improve its autofocus? No, you can't. But like Sony, I love Sony, but like I'm not happy with the image stabilization. Can you add gimbal to it? Yes. Will it increase your cost? Absolutely. Will it increase the bulk? Undeniably. But can you solve that problem? Yes. That's the whole thing. You always have to understand what can you add, what you cannot add. So if you need stimulation, you can do that. And I'm seeing too many people using this in my small hometown. So I know for a fact that more and more people are just accepting it. Yeah, gimbal is a thing that you buy. And it does allow another creative possibility. So it's not a bulk cost. It's like, yeah, it does add cool things that you can do with it. So people are like, shut up and take my money. So that does give you that IS performance. So buy or not, it's completely up to you. The most painful part is this 640 GB card. But it is what it is. Magic Kit Hulululu again. It's like they built this card. XQD used this system. Is like, why? And again, don't say the size is not big enough. Like Panasonic have figured it out. Fuji is tiny compared to this. They figured it out. It's like really frustrating. So this was my presentation on Sony FX30. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.